Hello everyone, I hope you have your diaries out, because today we're going to be talking about a very enjoyable puzzle game in my opinion. Now, we got the limited edition here, so as usual we're going to go over the physical goods here. So first, we're going to take all the physical goods we get. And it's a very standard box that sadly mine got a little damaged there on the corner there. It's not very structured very well, but the material on the outside, it has a really interesting texture to the paint job. And it does have very lovely art, so it gets the job done. But I would have preferred it to be a more hardcover thing. We get a pretty decent sized art book of 36 pages. And what I really like about this art book is on the bottom they give little notes on about the scenery that's in the art. So it adds a little context to the game a bit with the drawing sprites and that. So it's pretty nice. It adds some. I would normally go through all of it, but since the story is all the game really has, I don't want to really show too much of it, because some of it can be featured as potential spoilers for the game. But it's a pretty nice art book. I will maybe talk about in another video that I'm thinking of doing, because I'm thinking about talking about the storyline, but that's for another video. You also get a full soundtrack. As far as I understand, it's a full soundtrack. It also features some nice artwork on it with all the titles and a very nicely pressed disc inside. And then of course we have the game in all its physical glory, which is very nice, because believe me, I was really worried about getting a copy of this, because if we didn't get a physical copy, the Japanese limited press of it was very limited, so it will probably became very expensive. This is probably going to be actually much more expensive in Japan than in America, because as far as I've seen, you could still buy the game by itself for $19. Now this limited edition was $29, so this is a pretty cheap limited edition, and you get full soundtrack and everything. That's a pretty nice deal. Really decent art book. Just, I wish the container it came in was a little nicer. But overall, a pretty satisfying little thing. I would have liked it if it came with something just a little additional inside. But, you know, most VIA games don't. That's a bit of a shame. So, the Firefly Diary. Time to get into the meat of the game. So this game is a very simplistic type of game. If you ever played what I like to refer to as a puzzle death game, it's where you have lots of puzzles, and if you fuck up, you die horribly. Quite horribly. So the game does a few different things. First thing, it does make use of all the functionality the Vita's touchscreens, the back and the front. Basically, how it works is you have a fairy that is what you're mainly controlling, but there's also a dark fairy that lives in the shadows, and you can control them using the front screen for the normal fairy and the back screen for the back fairy. Now, the game also includes button controls. What a concept, right? Give you options. You have two touch screen control options, and you have a button control option. So if you don't like one or the other, you can switch them, which is really annoying when a lot of people who are reviewing this game right now aren't even aware of that. So anyway, I like to throw that out there just so don't let those people distract you. Now, admittedly, there are ups and downs to using the controls and the touchscreen and so on situations. Personally, when it came to the little maze parts with the light fairy, my fat ass fingers made it impossible for me to even see the damn fairy underneath my finger. So, but at the same time, the second really touchy maze you have to go through is a really delicate matter and the analog stick's a little sensitive on it. It's not impossible, obviously. I've used all three control schemes, so they have their ups and downs. They're all playable, they're all functionable, but they all have their slight ups and downs. You know, if you have small fingers, the touch screen's probably going to work out better with you. Now, I heard there are styluses you can get for the Vita. Those special ones, because the touchscreen uses the... There are two types of touchscreens. One that senses heat and one that doesn't, and it uses pressure. DS's uses pressure, and the Vita apparently uses the one that senses like heat. So there's like a conductive type stylus or something you can use on a Vita. Obviously they don't come with them, but there's also that you could also consider as an other option in controlling the game. But basically, you're escorting this little girl that you see in all the artwork and on the front cover. You're escorting her to the end of the game, and that's the light and the dark fairy. The dark fairy can only travel in shadows by note, which greatly reminds me of a certain Wii title I've played on my channel. I believe it was Lost in Shadow. It is very reminiscent of Lost Shadow, actually, too, when it comes to a lot of its puzzle elements of that. But really, you have no control over this girl. She follows the light fairy. So wherever the light fairy's going, she's going to do her best to follow it. So you don't have a lot of control over her. There's a few things you can tell her to interact with by using the X button or tapping the screen, depending on your control scheme. So she can grab and interact with a few items and push things and that. And I want to save a lot of people time when it comes to puzzles that involve pushing the crates and stuff. If you want her to let go of the crate, start on her and move the fairy down below her, and she should let go of the crate. If you want to climb the crate, move the fairy upward and go over, and she will climb the crate. Some people have complained about horrible controls, and I'm not gonna lie, they're not perfect. Nothing's perfect, but I did not have functionality issues once I learned how to control her. And once you know this, it shouldn't be that problematic. So again, I'm throwing that out there to help you. But yeah, this isn't where, you know, you're gonna pull lightsabers and shit and do backflips and shoot lots of shit and that. It's a survival game where you're an innocent little girl and you have no capability of doing anything. And all you can do is interact with levels and things and use traps and stuff to kill shit and that. So you would die a lot. Actually, what's hilarious is there are 2 trophies devoted to how many times you die. So an interesting challenge you could do on your PSN profile would be actually to beat the entire game without getting the forced death trophy. That would be an interesting challenge. That would. But there has been a lot of complaints with this game, and it's not perfect. There are a few instances that are kind of but it's a puzzle game, you know. I just find it confusing, and the people who's like, this game shit because I can't figure it out. It's like somebody whining you can't beat Tetris's first 10 levels because you can't fucking solve how to make lines fast enough. It's like, I just don't get it. I mean, the art style in the game is beautiful, by the way. Beautiful, depressing, and horrifying, but it's really beautiful in a dark, horrible sense. The music, it's really kind of more just adding to the environment thing than something you'd be like, da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na. So, I'd say, like, you know, the credits theme and that's about the most musical thing really in it. There are a few tunes here and there, but overall it's just really to add to the environment and such. But, so what's the story in this game? And this is what's actually interesting. You know, if the Japanese version of this was a lot more common, this would be up there as those games you could import and not have to worry about anything. Because there's like 4 dialogue boxes at the beginning that just help explain the controls, and that's it. There's no other dialogue. No spoken dialogue at all in this game. This is definitely something that would be on Drew Warriors. You can play it. You can play it if this never came to America in any form. It's very simple to figure out. So the story, what you gather is that you're lost in this weird, horrible place, and these fairies come and lend you out. That's basically how it starts. You're not really led a lot. Now, you do gather story fragments. Basically, they're memories. They're referred to as memories. And these memories are what elaborate a lot of the story and the events of what's going on in the game. And it's kind of borrowing from the Souls formula, kind of like how Five Nights at Freddy's did, where they injected ideas into the game's world, but don't outright tell you, because like I said, there's no spoken dialogue in this game at all. So all you have to interpret is what you're visually seeing. So this is using the very idea of that. So it's going to be interesting to hear some of the theories about what the grand conclusion of the game is in the end. But generally, it's as core. It's just a puzzle game where you're leading a little girl through the environment and interacting with it. Like I said, the light fairy you use to mainly control and interact with a few items, and you use the shadow one to usually do a lot of activation of switches and stuff that she wouldn't be able to normally reach by going through the shadows and that. Now, they're all bosses in this game, but like I said, you're not really, putting up your dukes and going, You gotta use your smarts to survive. And I have to say, they're all actually interesting, except maybe the fake final boss. The fake final boss, I like the fake final boss, but the fake final boss is going to piss people off. And I can tell you why it's going to piss people off. Because it reminds me of the very idea of Drakengard 1 and 3's final boss, where it's a completely different game. And then the real final boss is also a completely different type of game. It's kind of funny. I find something so amusingly interesting about that, where it's just, you've been playing this one type of game all this time, like in Drakengard, a hack and slash, and then all of a sudden it's a music game. Honey, no, no. So, but it's not a music game in this, but it is the joke final boss is, I don't know really how to describe it. It's just a fun guessing game. The real final boss is a more strategic game, but it's not in a very puzzly sense, I would say. But that's really all my thoughts on the game. I really enjoyed it. I have to say I'm disappointed with some of the criticism the game's getting, because mainly, I mean, you can make criticism for all games, don't get me wrong, and they're subjective to the opinions, but, I find the first issue with half the reviewers who don't even acknowledge their button controls and then bitch about the touchscreen controls without even knowing they were button controls. And then you just got the people who seem to be, obviously, they can't comprehend a puzzle game more complicated than Bejeweled. And they're bitching about dying. I don't know. It's like, puzzle games ain't for everyone. I don't know. But anyway. If you're into puzzle games, and puzzle games where you're going to die a lot, there are all parts where you even have to die to kind of learn certain puzzles or outcomes and that. And there is one moment I really hated in Chapter 4. If you look at my Twitter, you probably can know what part it was. But I really enjoyed the game, the story, and I'm going to enjoy thinking about the plot. Like I said, I'm to the point where I'm thinking of even making a video about my thoughts on the meaning of the plot, the ending, and stuff. Now, like usual, I'm going to talk in the spoilers, but overall, I recommend this game definitely if you got a Vita. The limited edition, that depends on your choice. Last time I checked, it's completely sold out. I pre-ordered mine. But you can still get the regular $19 just Vita physical game, or the download. But last I checked, the normal physical game is available off their website. And as far as I'm aware, all the physical stuff is only on their website. So you can't check your Amazon or GameStop or anything for it. Maybe used in the future, but for brand new. So you'll have to go to NIS America's website and check that out. I recommend the game. I think it's good if you're into that. But if you hate puzzle games, or you hate dying a lot, and you hate seeing a short load screen, this game may throw radars off of anger. So, just warning you. So, going into spoiler territory now about the ending and story and stuff. So, basically, you find out through the memories that your parents are scientists, and apparently something quite horrible happened to you. At that point, I'm still thinking about what happened to you. But something happened to you, and your parents went fucking crazy trying to clone their daughter alive again. And, or at least that's what seems to be happening, but you actually find out more what they were doing. So as you progress deeper in these memories, we collect that throughout the stages and that, you basically hit a dead end at the end of Chapter 4. You have to finish Chapter 4 to be able to actually get into the next chapter. Because there are 2 memories you can only collect after beating Chapter 4. And that's one in Chapter 4, and that's one at the very beginning of the game, when the game restarts after you beat the fake final boss. And you have to collect all the memories to be able to go into the final chapter. So let's talk about the fake final boss. The fake final boss are shadows of your parents, the male scientist and the female scientist. And it's very weird. It has this very corny music. It's probably the only happiest theme in the entire game. Your father will close the corners to certain amounts, and it gets smaller as the fight, and his shadow will basically fly across the screen, and he'll be in a certain pose or sometimes holding things in that, and then the corners are open, and you have to find the one you saw out of 4 of them, and using the shadow fairy you select the rope of the one he is. Every time you're wrong, computer bits, 8-bit squares of different colors, arrows, screen shit starts popping up the screen, slowly covering up more of the fight till you die. Your mother, when it's her turn, she'll have 3 cards and she'll be overlaid one of them. They're all flipped to question marks, and then they'll shuffle around. You have to pick the one she went to. As this fight progresses, and it's actually quite lengthy, to be honest. I will throw that out, and it starts getting faster, and the corn gets smaller, and it gets really hard. And there's actually a trophy for doing this whole fight without failing once. It does get kind of down to the draw of luck near the end of it. If I remember correctly, the trophy references luck too. Your lucky one or something like that. But after you do this, you crawl through your house, and then you fall off a cliff, and the credits roll, and then you fall back at the beginning of the game. The significance of this, I think the significance of this is that this is happening over and over again, not necessarily the exact same person, because you see the body of the main character in multiple places. The parents, some of memories even have shitloads of them. They made a lot of her, so I think the idea here is that while one fails, another one follows the same path in hopes of getting to the goal. Now, what is the goal? The goal is where the fairies want you to go. Yeah, you didn't think those fairies were just like, oh, look, an innocent little girl, we need to help her. No, those fairies are something more sinister than you thought. So, after you collect all 13 memories, the 13th memory, the little girl will collect something from a familiar door. If you explored the levels, you can find the door, but you have to explore a certain part of the level. she'll collect the light and then end up back in her house, and you have the option of hiding it somewhere. You have to hide it somewhere. Where you hide it, it's optional. And then you have to go back into a different chapter part where you're in your house and collect that light, and then go back to the stage where that door is and use that light, and you access the final chapter, which is just referred to as the X chapter. What happens in the X chapter? Why, the whole plot takes a fucking twist like hell. So the fairies were actually the little girl's parents. And obviously, you being with horns and shit, as shown in the memories, you're not really her. You're one of the clone things they made. What's inside this doorway? It's a supercomputer that has the daughter's soul in it. It's in a seed thing, in a tree canister thing. So basically what they did is they crush you and let the spirit of the daughter possess your body and kick you out so she can be alive again. That was the whole point of everything, to get you healed so their daughter could live in your corpse. They used you. And of course, you're not happy. So now you're stuck in the tree thing and that, but you're in control of it now. Of course, the parents, the fairies, are quite horrified and quickly get their daughter off screen, and so the final battle begins, making two dark pillars on the side of the tree. And now you're stuck in a tree as a soul, and it's time to fight all the shadow monsters you can. So you have a bunch of plants, and you basically play a kind of more complicated version of a tower defense game in a way. Not necessarily a normal tower defense game, because a normal tower defense game I would consider where you have some control of the layout. You have a forced control of the layout, so you have to figure out how to aim everything. The best way I found was to aim most of the plants towards the center. That way, because there's certain shadows I can get by the root walls you can make with the seeds also. So I found that having the different seeds bounce around in the central region where your core is actually helps a lot. And then sometimes there's large groups of them, and if you drop a seed, not the plant fully grown, but a seed down, and the only way to get a seed to grow where that plant is, you have to destroy the plant and let it grow a seed. But if you make the seed fall down with the shadow power, it'll create a giant root wall. Where it lands, it does massive damage and it blocks. So you have to use all that to your advantage, beat all the shadows, and you will basically have shadowed the whole building this is in, and she dies. The little girl dies again, and her parents also die. And in the afterlife, they just kind of like feel a little pity for each other, it seems. And the last scene just shows them sitting on the tree after the credits. So it's a pretty out there plot twist. But I actually enjoyed the game, and I really enjoyed actually trying to figure out how to get the true ending, because it's quite obvious there was something more to the game. Obviously, with all the memories and the weird shit. And, the Chapter 4 ending resolved nothing or explained absolutely nothing. So it was quite obvious there was more to the game. Also, I think the trophy for completing the game is not hidden, so I guess you could also use that. I think it wasn't hidden, I'm not 100% sure. But it's an interesting little story, and there's a lot of different parts of it that are interpretive, so I look forward to maybe making a video talking about my thoughts on it. So anywho, this is probably already long enough, so my thoughts, again, really good. I really enjoyed it. I like a lot of puzzle games. It has its frustrating moments. I mean, like any good puzzle game, there's going to be the parts that are going to tip at your slight weaknesses in puzzle solving, and sometimes those parts will frustrate you a bit. But in the end, the accomplishment outweighs that small bit of frustration. So anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you enjoy the game if you check it out. Feel free to also ask a question down below if you would like to hear. If you have a question and you would like me to answer that you do not feel I covered in this video, I will get with you down below. Thank you, and I will see you all next time. Praise the sun. Or maybe the moon in this case.